Let's talk a little bit about QR codes. If you had a QR code scanner on your phone or iPad that you had handy, you could actually scan this QR code here. They are actually a lot like barcodes, except they are two-dimensional. They go in both directions. And it stands for a quick response code. And a quick response code can take you to a website, video, audio, or text. So pretty much anything you can post on the web, you can get to with a quick response code. Now, why is that helpful? So let me just talk to you about that QR code magic. So if you've ever asked a kindergartner to type a URL into a computer or an iPad, then you understand why QR codes are magic. Because simply by making that URL into a QR code, if they have a QR code scanning app on that iPad, they can simply scan the QR code and get to that impossibly long URL to misspell.com in one quick scan. So QR code magic is worth it just simply for getting kids to difficult URLs. So in order to use QR codes, you need a device with a camera, like an iPhone or an iPad or some other kind of tablet or Android phone. And you will need a code reader app. You simply open the app on your device, and using your device's camera, it will scan the code, and then it will likely open a little link that'll say go to website or go to link. And you usually have to tap that, and it will open it and take you to whatever that QR code is linking to. So I'm going to share with you a little quick YouTube video demonstrating that.
I'm going to locate my QR code reader, scan the code, the code then generates Lake City Printing's telephone number, and I can either dial the number or save to contact.
So it is that easy. And she was using the app Enigma, which I have on my slide right here, Enigma. And if I go to my next slide, it'll show you how you can specifically get to Enigma to download it. And the reason I like this free QR reader, there's tons out there, but the reason I like this one is that it works on all platforms that I've seen. So it will work on a Microsoft phone, it'll work on a BlackBerry, it'll work on an Android, it'll work on an iPhone. So it's great because it's not device specific. Pretty much they have an app for any device your parents could possibly have. And why do I say parents? Because if you're going to use QR codes at open house, you're going to want to ask parents to download that reader in advance. So here's an example. You could even copy and paste this and modify it in your email of what I've sent out to parents to ask them to download the QR code reader Enigma to their phone in advance because we're going to be using them at open house. And it is really that simple. So now we know how to read a QR code and that we need a QR code reading app. We understand that. But let's talk about making QR codes. And I'm going to show you this. But what I'm hoping is that you're not the only one making those codes. I'm hoping that you're having your students make those codes. Okay? Because you don't want to be doing all the work. You want to put them to work to be able to share their wonderful projects they've uploaded, maybe their video or audio, that they could then share through a QR code at open house that their parents could come and scan and get right to that link very easily. So I know in the past, some of us maybe have created PowerPoint slides and we have them going on the screen at the front of the room, but you have to wait through 33 other slides before you get to the one that's about your child. Well, through QR codes and the parent's device, they can get right to their own child's work quickly and easily, and it will truly delight your parents. So QR code makers. So I have directions here for a couple of different ways to do it. My latest favorite way is called goqr.me, and it's a website that makes free codes for you. There's also another website called Kawa that maybe you're familiar with, which works really well too. And finally, if you use the Google URL shortener, it will also generate a code for you. So let me show you what that looks like. So here's the goqr.me site. And you'll see that you can select all kinds of different types of QR codes to make. So you can have a QR code that goes to basically your virtual business card. You can have a QR code that just pulls up text and gives directions to somebody. You can have a QR code that takes you to a URL. And you see as I roll over each of these, it shows up here what it is. So you can have it generate a short, an SMS or a text message. It can even pull up a phone number and prompt a phone to make a phone call. You can have it to a geolocation, a calendar event, generate an email, and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and tap on the URL type of QR code, and I'm going to take my website, which has that long, ugly URL. I'm going to copy that onto my clipboard, and then I'm going to paste it in there, and then voila! Did you see over here? Ta-da! There is my QR code that magically appeared. And then there are two buttons below it, so I could embed this in my website if I wanted to grab the HTML and do that. Or the simple, most commonly used thing to do is to simply download the image. So, and when you download that image, you want to make sure that you give it a distinct name for that file. So, because it's really easy to confuse which QR code goes to which thing, and you don't want to have to rescan them all to figure it out. So when you download it, save it with a distinct name. I usually say QR code to my website with QR blog article or something like that. All right, so before I go on and show you another way to generate a QR code, I want to go ahead and take a look at questions. And I have a question. Is Enigma the QR reader that you recommend? So Enigma is the QR reader that I have had the most success with. I've tried lots of them, and lots of them work well. So I'm not necessarily endorsing that company, but I like it particularly for open house because Enigma can be downloaded on a range of devices. So I think I have their website open. Let me see. Maybe I still have it open. I might have closed it, but I can open it again. So let me go back here and show you how simple it is to download that. So here's the download link in my notes here on Haiku Deck, and here's their website. And you'll see that if you scroll down to the right here it says download from the App Store, and again it's all free. Download from the Android market, BlackBerry App World, and the Windows Phone. So pretty much you're probably going to cover any kind of smart phone device that your parents could possibly have. So Enigma is a good one for that. And again, if you simply go to my slides, you can get to these links here in the notes section. All right, so we did one ta-da with GoQR, and now we're going to try another method of creating a QR code, and that is by using the Google URL shortener. So I'm going to go to the Google URL shortener, and if you just Google URL shortener, it'll come up with goo.gl. I'm going to go ahead and paste that same long, ugly URL in there, and then I'm going to say shorten it. So now you're probably saying, well, yeah, I got a short URL, but where the heck is the QR code? So this is the really important step here, and it's written in my notes as well. but you need to click on details. If you click on details, it will then show you the QR code that it has generated for that shortened URL. So you get 2 for the price of 1 here. Not only do you get the shortened URL, but you also get that QR code, and then you would simply right click on it and save the image as. So that's the Google URL shortener. And again, if you forget what it was that was shown, again, the directions are here. And I also actually have a really short video on YouTube that I'll share with you that reviews how to make your own QR codes. It might even be something to show your students in class. And again, I've had kids as young as 1st grade make their own QR codes to their content. So once you've gotten your QR codes generated and you've saved them, then you want to print them out and post them somewhere. They could be on desks. Here you can see they have sort of like a cardboard stand with an enlarged version of a QR code. I've seen them printed as sort of like a 2 by 2 inch piece of paper and cut out and just taped to a student's desk. They also work great on bulletin boards. So not just for open house, but if you want your students to have an interactive bulletin board where maybe they are going and reading each other's blogs or looking at each other's projects, when they have a few free minutes, they can take their smartphone over and scan that QR code and look at each other's content that way. So, but again, great for open house to print them out and post them. So I want to talk a little bit about printing those codes. So you want to make sure that I'm always conscious of wanting to save paper. And so I've created a Google Doc that you can make a copy of and then save it to your Google Drive. Hopefully, if you have a Google Docs account. If you don't, you need to get one. And this is what I've done in the past. So I just simply paste the image. I insert the image of the QR code that I saved earlier. So let me go ahead, and I didn't save it actually, but you'll have to trust me. I would insert the image into one of these boxes, and then I just label it. So here, this was a story kit, 1st grade story example. Or if I'm doing multiple students, I might say John's story kit, Emma's story kit, and paste a URL into each of the boxes on the table. And then I simply print this out, and I can even have the kids use the lines to cut them apart. And so not only do I have the QR code, but I have a little label of what it is for. So it's real helpful to just have a template that you paste them into, and it saves paper and makes it go a lot quicker. So here's some other ideas. Tony Vincent, who has the Learning in Hand website and has some fabulous ideas. If you haven't checked it out, you should check out his site. He likes to use QR codes a lot for his workshops. And he actually uses one of those old label printers, like a Dymo label printer. I have one on my desk at work, and I'm always thinking, what could I use that for? Because we don't use them much these days. But they're very inexpensive to buy online, and you can just simply print out your QR codes on stickers. So that's another fun way to do it. You could have them on name tag stickers. When your parents enter, they could fill out their name and put it on their shirt with the QR code, and then scan it right there to get to student content. Also, another Tony Vincent idea is he's created dice, and there's various apps out there online that will help you to make these dice that you can then print out and fold up and put QR codes on each one. And this particular dice actually creates reflection questions. So it will ask you sort of open-ended reflection questions that you can use in your classroom with your students. You could even do this again with parents and have them reflect on what was the favorite project that you saw tonight. What question would you like to ask your student about their learning, and so on. So again, this is Making a Dice with QR Codes by Tony Vincent. And here's the link. Another really fun thing to do with QR codes is to use qrvoice.net. The link is right there, and I should have it open. So in QR Voice, you simply go to the website and you type in what you would like your QR code to say. So it might say, welcome to open house, mom and dad. And then voila, it generates my QR code right there. I can size that down. And then if I take my phone, or if you have your phone with your reader app on it, you can do this too while you're listening to me. And I simply hold it up. I'm going to turn up my sound here so you might be able to see it. So you heard that. And now it's going to go to the qrvoice.net.
Welcome to open house, mom and dad.
So it generates a computer-generated version or voice of what they've entered. And you can believe that kids are going to be pretty tickled by this one. So, and you can do pretty much any kind of text that you can type in that window. I've seen teachers do it too for their daily prompts if they want to kind of mix it up and give kids directions this way. So that's qrvoice.net. Another fun thing to do with QR codes is to post audio. And again, there's lots of different ways to record and upload audio. This particular slide is showing Croak.it, which is both an iPad app and a website. And you can see I have an example right here. And it's super simple. You can record up to 30 seconds of your voice. And I'll go ahead and play the open house message that I recorded earlier.
I'm so glad you could come to open house. I hope you will check out my writing. I'm really proud of it. The other thing that I really want you to see is my desk and how neat it is.
So that was my Croak.it audio message, and it generates a URL. And I could simply take that URL and I could paste it into GoQR and create a QR code to get to that message. And again, Croak.it is both a web app. You can record 30-second messages and it uploads it instantly and produces that URL for you. And it's also an iPad app. I don't know if it's an Android app yet. So, but there are lots of different audio options out there. As long as you have a simple and easy way to upload them, then you just take that URL and pop it into GoQR or to the Google URL shortener and create that QR code. All right, so please put your questions in our question window. If you have anything that pops into your mind and you would like to know more about. So video. So this is one of the most common uses I've seen of QR codes at open house, because often there's some big video project or a project that a teacher has videotaped of students. Like I know, say in third grade, they do a biography project and they present a famous person and they have to actually do a speech as that person in costume. And I've had my third grade teachers record them and then scratch their heads and say, okay, now how would I share this with parents? Because I can play it on my screen, but again, if I have 30 of them having to play each different one, they may not walk into the room at the right time to see their child's. But if you simply upload that video that your student has created or you have created, it will create a URL to whatever you upload it to. And then you can, again, take that URL, paste it into the QR code generator, and voila, you have a QR code that will instantly take them to that video and start playing it. So I happen to like Vimeo a lot. So I often upload videos to Vimeo, my professional videos anyways. And here's an example of my Vimeo video here that is actually, that I mentioned earlier, that shows you how to make that QR code, how it reviews the exact steps that I demonstrated earlier. So if I simply took that URL and copied it, and then if I went back to my QR code generator, and I'm going to get rid of that one, oops, and I'm going to paste the new one in. There you go. So now I have a QR code. So if you have your phone or iPad with your QR scanning app, you could take a scan of that and it would take you right to my Vimeo video that you could then play on your smartphone. So very convenient, no URLs to type in, gets your parents quickly to those awesome projects that you want your kids to be sharing with them and highlighting. So I just want to mention that on our website, cccoepd.pbworks, we do have some upcoming other webinars. Our next one is next Tuesday, Steam Power the Common Core, and Shauna Haas, who is a Mount Diablo Unified teacher at a middle school, has a special robotics program, and she's going to be talking about that program. So for today's webinar, if you go to our website, I will be deleting that registration link, but you can see I've already got my haiku deck presentation posted. And I also have my blog, my personal blog article on QR codes posted that has additional information. So you can see it sort of gives you the rundown on the nuts and bolts of what QR codes are about. So if there was somebody you wanted to share this information with that wasn't able to join us today, this might be a good link to share with them. It talks about the QR code makers, and it also talks about some examples of QR codes. So I've mostly been focusing on QR codes for open house, but there are a plethora of amazing ideas for using QR codes out there. So here's one made by high school students that is the periodic table. And they scan one of the QR codes and it pops up a video or a website about that element and teaches the students about those elements. This is a really neat one. This is a scavenger hunt for the 100th day of school, and this teacher put in a lot of effort for her first graders. She had 80 first graders hunting for these QR codes. So what she did was she made this scavenger hunt, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But you can also take her work if you work with young kids or know somebody who might like to use this, and you can download and print this for their 100th day scavenger hunt. So all over school, they had these cut out and taped in various places in the school, and the kiddos went around and scanned each question, and then they had to fill in their response sheet above with their answers to color in the right square. So one of the answers, say, would be F4 to the number one question, and they colored in F4. And as you can see, when they finished the scavenger hunt, it colored in 100 for the 100th day of school, which is really cool. So how did she do that? So down here is a QR treasure hunt generator link. So this link on my blog takes you to a site that actually will generate a number of QR codes for questions that could be a treasure hunt that you could do. So you get your kids up and moving. Let's say you want them to be learning vocabulary words. You could have these QR codes hidden either around your classroom, or if you're able to have them expand that search to the school grounds, you could have these taped up and they could go around with the device, maybe even just bring your own smartphone, and they could scan each QR code to get the question that you've generated. And it's just a really fun way to sort of incorporate some movement and engaging QR codes, and it could be around any topic. So as you can see, if I say get started, you put the title of your quiz here, you type your questions, and then it will create the QR codes for each of your questions that you could then download. So it's really slick and handy. So I want to remind you that if you have any questions, to please put them in our question window. Okay, so that's the QR scavenger hunt. A couple of other fun uses. Again, I've seen lots of bulletin boards with QR codes that are interactive, either for open house or just for the kids to be learning things, to be hearing each other's stories that they've created. Here's a really fun idea for science. This PE teacher was teaching some anatomy, the bones, and the students had to study a bone on their skeleton model. Then they had to create some kind of content, a video or text or a website, to show what they learned about that bone and create a QR code to take students to it. So that was the way that if I learned about the femur, I made my QR code that took you to content that I created. It could be anything, a slideshow about the femur that you would scan, and then you would learn about the bone that I had studied. And reciprocally, I would scan the QR code you had created to say the ribs, and I would learn about the rib bones that you had studied. So really clever way to use QR codes. And finally, a fun thing to do, you've probably seen this in libraries, where if students have made audio book reports, and I have a couple examples of different ways to do them here. This one's made with Croquet, and this one's made with StoryKit, which is an iPad app. And then you can simply create those QR codes, print them out, and tape them onto your library books, so that as students go around the library and they're trying to find a book that interests them, they can just scan those books and get their friends, fellow students, reviews of those books and get ideas. All right, so I think we've covered the gamut of lots of different things that you could do with QR codes. I hope you get started right away. It's so simple. And I hope you will join us next Tuesday for our other webinar. If you have any questions, I've put my email address at Contra Costa County here. My Twitter handle is @DigiChica, and I have links to that as well.